Tallulah, and this is, I almost said your vlog, forgotten what I'm talking to. I was so personable to the camera, I forgot that it's my very own vlog. Well, moi et Loulou. Bonjour Loulou. No matter how often I look at Loulou, she's always got a wandering eye, but I've forgiven her. I don't know whether you've got a wandering eye person in your life, but I did once know somebody from the mafia who had one eye, and he always said, do you ever notice my one eye? And I was like, yes, Steve, I do notice how your one eye. Anyway, today I am in red and white, red being the operative colour of the hour, because today we are doing a macabre vlog. Oh, it's very exciting. Not even Halloween, but thank you, Pedro Coro. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You are in Mexico. Obviously, you probably know that, but for anyone else who doesn't know, Pedro Coro is in Mexico City. I know well. I have spent some time in Mexico City, Pedro, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved the Zocalo. I almost said Zorro. Obviously not Zorro, it's the Zocalo. I did remember that it began with a Z. You know, because the Zocalo is the town centre of anywhere in a Mexican town. There we go. That's a bit of culture, a bit of anthropology. Yes, I'm a dark horse and I know what I'm talking about when I come to Mayan trails. Don't press me on it. Anyway, Pedro had a question, a wonderful question of what should one eat when you are watching a horror film? And that is a much researched question, Pedro, let me tell you, because I've researched it and other people have researched it too. In fact, one person wrote 7 foods never to eat while watching a horror film. One of them is never eat anything that's tomato sauce based, obviously, because one might get a little bit alarmed thinking that it represents the blood and gore of what you could be watching on screen, and it might be a little much. Another point of thing not to eat is oatmeal. Now, you're not meant to eat oatmeal if you are watching a zombie film, because at the bit where the zombie eats the brain, you might just be taking a big spoonful of oatmeal and it might resemble it too closely and turn your stomach. But I say, Pedro, to all this well-intentioned advice, blow it out of the water. I do, because if you're somebody that likes watching a horror film, then one should have the entire experience in your living room and not hold back. It is even beyond 3D or 4D or any other D, come to think of it, darling. It is bringing the whole horror experience into actual live. This is quite dangerous what I'm saying, because obviously if you're watching a film with a mass murderer, I suddenly thought I might be inciting mass murder, and obviously there is a limit to what I'm saying one should replicate in one's living room when watching a horror film. I'm only saying that actually it might just be quite an exciting accent of one's horror film watching experience. I'm having to watch my words, I'm not a lawyer, I'm just trying to, cover all bases. It just sort of enhances the experience. So I would say eat tomato sauce based things, have a bowl of oatmeal, and my sandwich I'm going to prescribe to you right now is, of course, the raw meat sandwich. Now, obviously I don't mean any old raw meat. I'm not going to throw a pork loin in between bread without cooking that. And even if you did cook it, I'm not sure what. Anyway, one has to be very careful when dealing with raw meat. And I shall say straight up, I'm thinking of a beef carpaccio. Now, I don't often like Parmesan shavings, but I do when it comes to beef carpaccio, because very thin slices of beef, you'll have to really investigate. If you've got a chef in your family, try and ask them, because I don't know whether you need to cure the beef, and I'm not going to be responsible for anyone keeling over with this advice. I would say, I'm giving you the raw, see what I'm doing there, darling? Doing raw several times, because something about horror brings out the rawness of you. So get your raw beef, maybe you have to do something with that before just slicing it, and then put it with a bit of rocket or arugula if you're in America, maybe a sprinkling of Parmesan shavings, and have that on a bit of toast. Or steak tartare. Now, I had steak tartare recently, and I felt a bit like a cave woman, and that's not bad. That's not a bad experience to do once in your life. I mean, you've got to be careful with that because there's a raw egg as well, so the whole thing's raw. You basically have to go back to very much basics. It's as if fire has not yet been invented and you're just eating anything basic. I mean, obviously not your own leg, but well, there are people that do. In fact, cannibal films, I did read, you should avoid eating. If you're of the ilk that watches horror films that are to do with cannibals, don't eat. And there's not much I'm going to say about that. I'm not an expert on horror films, so if there are cannibal films, I don't really want to know about that. Gosh, this has taken a very dark turn. Anyway, Pedro, I hope you enjoy your raw meat sandwich. Let me know how you get on, and the recipes, as always, will be in the bit below, and please ask me any other questions. I'm always open to answer questions, and bon appétit! Merci!